All right, good afternoon, everybody. If you are here in the US, we say good afternoon to you. And if you are in Liberia, you are possibly joining us on Freedom FM 87.9. Thanks to the guys in studio in the beautiful city of Monrovia, Liberia. And if you are following us on YouTube and Facebook, we say welcome to the broadcast. We'd like to hear from you today. We want you to please share the show. The information we share here may not be for you, but someone can definitely benefit from this information today. Dr. George, how are you doing today in the beautiful state of wherever you are?
I'm doing very great. Been very great. It's been a good day. Weather is good. It's raining, just like it rains in Monrovia. So I'm excited to be here. Good afternoon, good evening to our friends in Monrovia who's joining us on 89.7 FM. Good evening to those of you joining us on Facebook and YouTube. It's good to be in your homes this afternoon and evening, or wherever you find yourself.
All right. So while you get all set up, again, we are going to be broadcasting live on Freedom FM 87.9 in Monrovia. So please share the broadcast, and we want you to please be part of the show. And if you are able to get to Facebook, because I know majority of you are going to be hearing us on the radio, but if you are able to get to your Facebook or to YouTube and look for Liberia Shall Rise, you will be able to participate and call and also be able to leave your comment as well. Today we have a special show. You know, usually when I come here, I'm super excited, and we are discussing issues concerning Mama Liberia and other parts of the country. But today I'm kind of chill in a chill mode today. I'm not that my jumpy self today because the issues I think we're going to talk about today is a very serious one. If you have seen the topic, we are talking about the prevalence of domestic violence or intimate partner violence against women. And this is not just a Liberia issue. It is not just a USA issue, but it is issue that affects women all around the world. And we'll be putting some statistics up here. You know, I got some voices that will be giving us more information. I have a good friend of mine who is going to be joining us, Crystal Ryan. She is victim advocate. I call her victim advocate. I don't know if she goes by that, but she's a domestic violence advocate, and she's also a motivational speaker. So she's going to be joining us here shortly. We'll be discussing this issue, and we just want to make sure that, again, we don't want to, for you out there in social media land, we don't want the victim shaming. We don't want the comments that'll be disparaging to other people. We want to be informative. We want to make sure that people get the information they can have. Mr. George, I am going to bring our guest in, and then let's get this show on the roll. I don't know if you had any other thing you want to add before we move forward.
No, that's great. I mean, we're going to have the conversation. We want to look at the statistics of what happened and what going on in Liberia. But yeah, I guess we'll do most of the conversation from the end. We bring the perspective back to these issues that are actually affecting the world, but especially our females in Liberia.
All right, so let me bring Crystal on. Crystal, good afternoon. I know you are somewhere. I don't know exactly where you are, but greet our people in Liberia. I promise you, you can speak the Liberian dialect. Go for it. Greet our people,
Hi.
and let's go from there.
Hi, I'm Crystal Ryan. I am not only a motivational speaker and domestic violence advocate, I am myself also a survivor. And I'm coming to you from Denver, Colorado today. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to be here with you all and share today.
We are super excited to have you. And whenever you're ready to go to Liberia, let me know. You will go to Liberia with me. We're coming together.
I'm
So,
ready.
but yeah, so basically, as we have talked about I know we're going to be addressing specific issues as it pertains to Liberia. And if you want to discuss specific issue as it pertains to your line of work, we just ask for privacy. We are all professionals, and we know confidentiality is super important. So let us be very mindful as we go into the discussion. But Crystal, let me start with you. First, introduce when you speak of being a domestic violence advocate. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I decided to turn my pain into purpose. When I was trying to escape domestic violence, I didn't know the first thing about escaping. I didn't know who to go to. I didn't know um, the steps to take. So living my own domestic violence helped me, and escaping helped me to build this career that I have now set my purpose out is to help other women to escape and rebuild their lives and realize that there is life after domestic violence. So it's not something I went to school for. It's not something I studied for. It's my life. I lived it. So I'm grateful that I survived so that I could be that voice and that face of domestic violence awareness and a safe space for others that are trying to escape and rebuild their lives.
Awesome, awesome. And look, I was looking at some statistics. I was looking at the numbers, and when you look at the numbers, I think the numbers actually stands out on the flyer. When you look at it, it actually speak to the magnitude of this. You know, CDC have not called it epidemic. No one have called it epidemic, but I want to call it that. It speaks to the magnitude of this. 1 in 3 women, when you look at what the United Nations is publishing, 1 in 3 women ages 15 to 30 years old, they have had some sort of intimate partner violence against them. They have experienced some sort of domestic violence in their lives. 1 in 3 women, age 15 to 30. That is, I mean, it blows my mind because as a 15-year-old, you are thinking, how do I get to my friends on social media? What do I do? Hang out at the mall? I am not thinking that at that particular age, you will be experiencing something called intimate partner or domestic violence. So, I mean, I want you to kind of speak to that, to the number as well before Mr. George come in.
Yes, 1 in 3 women, which means if you're in a room full of women, if you're at church or if you're at school, just think about that number. 1 in 3 women in your immediate setting, in your immediate presence, has been affected by domestic violence. I can identify with the age of 15 because at the age of 15 is when I became a nomad and when I began experiencing domestic violence at a very young age. Um, and people say, well, how could you think that domestic violence was okay? Well, in my situation, I was abandoned by both parents. So I grew up in a home that was, where rape and molestation did take place, abuse did take place. So in my mind, if the people who are supposed to love and protect you, if they're doing this to you, then that must be love. That's what I knew was love. So it was
Mm.
no surprise to me that when I became an adult and got married and started to experience abuse, I accepted it because that's what I got at an early age. Another thing is that in these households today, you don't know what these kids grew up seeing. So, as a parent, I would always tell my daughter, be careful. Don't allow someone to put their hands on you in a joking manner where you think, oh, they're just playing. Because little Johnny may have seen his dad do that to his mom, or vice versa. The mom may be abusing dad. So, that's why I advocate and I start with youth members. I start with children when I speak because it's starting so much younger. And they say 15. It's also starting in elementary school. You will be amazed at the elementary school kids that have to live in that fear. They see it and it becomes a normal. So, yes, those age and those statistics are absolutely right. But now it's getting even younger because let's just be honest, some of our parents are much younger nowadays. Our grandmothers are much younger. So it's starting even with younger children. So we have to get into these elementary schools, these middle schools, and on and beyond to try to stop this epidemic.
Dr. George, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think. Can you check the back? Well, I thought I saw our second guest. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
I
that
was
that
trying to
is
get her. Mhm.
that is great, Crystal, what you're sharing because is mind-boggling, and sometimes we overlook these things, and we're seeing the prevalence taking place in the communities right now, with this violence. So, thank for the story that you share with us. But is that why are we missing it? Why are we missing these the violence that is taking place against our sister? Why is it that in most communities it seems that we are not raising the red flag, we are not talking about it a lot? What, from your experience, from your professional background, what are the reasons that is? Because if for those of you listening in Liberia, if you look at Liberia, that's states, 50%, at 50%, everyone agree, half of the population agree that, oh, domestic violence and violence against women is actually taking place. But when it's turned around, if 47% of the men believe that it's something is common, but sometimes it's necessary. So it's common, but sometimes it's necessary. Or when you take the stats of how many men have actually hit on their girlfriends or their wives, it's about 45% in Liberia. And I show a similar case here in the US. So why we know that this is happening, but we seem to somehow allow it to go through the fact that in your experience, what do you think is happening?
So for one, you never ask someone why don't they leave, because there's so many reasons why people do not leave. A personal experience, one, when I grew up, what happens is that in this house stays in this house. So you don't go out and say, well, this is what's happening in my home. Second of all, it's fear. And third, for me, it was, where am I going to go? Who is going to help me? I am financially bound to this man. I am emotionally bound. I don't have a good family connection. So people say, well, leave. Okay, I want to leave. Well, where are the resources to help me leave? There's no resources. I called the National Domestic Violence Hotline over 30 times trying to escape. There were no resources. There again, I worked every day, but if my money was going to my abuser, I don't have access to my accounts. Also, there's a cultural difference. And my culture, it's a lot easier, I would say, than it is in your culture. Because I have experienced that, a lot of cultures, the male is the head of the household and the woman is the woman. So, there again, if I don't have the finances, I don't have the resources, and then I just don't know. I'd rather stay in my situation than be homeless. I'd rather stay in my situation and take my children away from their home, and then they don't have the needs, the needs that they need, just the simple needs met. Um, Resources is a big issue. And fear is also, because my abuser said, if you leave me, I'll kill you. I've read so many stories where in other countries that even in America and in the US here, we leave our abuser today, tomorrow, we're gone. Or,
Krista, I'm so sorry. That I just don't want you to gloss. I mean, to just sweep over this because it's beautiful what you're saying. When I say beautiful, I'm thinking about the beauty that comes from the ashes, right? So
right.
what you just said is just. I want to jump right on that when it talks about you leave me, I will kill you, because this is real life. This is something that happened. And this discussion actually came about because my good friend here, Dr. George, he heard a story that he shared with me, and he said, "Look, last week, just a week ago, yesterday, I mean, a young woman who was in a relationship. Look, we don't know the whole details of the story. Pieces are coming out. The case is still being investigated, and the young man is in jail. So I don't want to act like I know the full detail. But from what we have gathered, this man and this girl, they were in a relationship, off and on relationship, back and forth, back and forth. And at one point in time, she just decided, like, enough is enough. I'm going to move on. And he went to her place of employment on the day that the incident took place, went to her place of employment while she was at work. He had to use his sister to lower this girl out of her place of employment, brought her to an entertainment center, brought daylight, and while they were there, he decided to reignite this relationship. And the young lady is not wanting to go in that direction. And I think that objection, how dare she object to him? How dare you say no to me? And he already had a plan in my mind because he came with a knife. He took that knife out of his pocket, stabbed this young woman, and this woman lost her life. Young girl. And so what you are saying, it has so much truth to it that I didn't want us to just overlook, because sometimes people say just pack your clothes and leave, just run away from there. And these abusers are saying, if you leave, I will kill you. And it just happened, in our sweet little country. And so, yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want you to please go on.
that's okay. And that's why friends and family members, if sometimes you do have that immediate family, but they know the potential. They know what your abuser is capable of because you may have shared that. And they be the same people that say, yeah, get out of there and leave. Well, can I come to your house? Well, I don't want that drama brought to my house. Or, I don't, yeah, I want you to leave, but no, you can't come here. And sometimes so many innocent families have lost their lives just here in Denver, Colorado, a year or so ago, maybe a little less than a year. Abuser took out an entire family. They were innocent. They had nothing to do with it. But he came there looking for the wife, and he killed the family. Innocent people, they don't want to help us because they don't want to be involved for fear. And I can't blame them, but it's like, then stop telling me to leave if you can't help. So that's another reason why we stay, because those that are connected to us, that are close to us, they fear their lives too, because most abusers are unstable and they act upon what they are going to say. I actually had to leave an entire state. I escaped. That's why I have the Crystal's Escape Fund. That's where my donations go to, because I actually had to pick up my children with a trash bag and a backpack, get on a Greyhound bus and go somewhere totally thousands of miles away from my comfort zone, where there was no job. I had nowhere to live. I knew no one. So think about having to uproot, leave everything behind, and go to a new place. And especially if you don't know anyone. So it's a challenge. It takes a very strong person to just uproot and say, I'm tired and I hope I get out with my life.
And
Dr. George, I want you to come in, but let me just introduce our station real quick. And Dr. George, I want you to come in after that. So if you are watching us or listening to us in Monrovia, you are listening to us on the radio station Freedom FM 87.9. And also, if you want to add your voice to the discussion, you have a question you want to ask, we will have a number posted here very shortly that you can call and ask our panelists. And also, you can go to Facebook, you can go to YouTube and look for Liberia Shall Rise and be part of the discussion. Dr. George, go ahead.
yeah, and we also have a second guest, Kindness from Liberia. She's a women voice group advocate. She founded that group, and she has been speaking about women and supporting them in Liberia. She's trying to join us, but Australia has a very false thing. But once we get on board, maybe we'll get her called into the studio. So those of you in Radio Land, again, thank you for being a part of this program. Krista, you made a very important point, and I'm intrigued because those of you listening, lives in the United States of America. We had Kindness that lives in Liberia, so we will have a balance in this conversation. Intrigued by what you're saying. You're speaking, I'm just thinking I'm in Africa, I'm in Liberia, because wanting to put out is extremely difficult. You have to leave a community to move to another community, and then family members who even you talk to, they are not willing to get involved because they are afraid that the drama may be taken to their house. And I think it's something that our society is supposed to, we should take note of, because we cannot allow this to continue to happen. I mean, Mr. Sharif spoke about the case of Princess in Liberia that have taken the attention of most people in Liberia, of the gruesome incident. But she has been in this situation for a while, and people knew about it. But there's another situation in Canada or Texas where another Liberian woman was killed, and the gentleman committed also killed himself after killing her in Texas. So that's brought this to our attention, because it's like we are not talking more about it. We are not having this kind of conversation in our communities, because but why, in your experience, your personal experience, which you have brought on this program, not only are you a professional in this area, but you have a personal experience. So in your experience, why do you think, what are the reasons why men will be violent towards someone someone they love, someone that they call their mental health, for the sake of it, someone who perhaps you want to church together? What are the reasons why you believe that men become that you have this the prevalence in domestic violence?
I think it's a power thing, and I think it's a lot of control. Um, Men are taught that men are the head of the household, and we are to submit to your man, and you're supposed to listen. So I think a lot of men, they feel like, I am this breadwinner. I am the source here. But let's not just it's not just men though. Men also are abused, and you get some powerful women that have, she may be a doctor and he may be a blue collar worker, and it's that power and control. And my personal experience, my abuser knew I didn't have anyone. I didn't have that close family bond. I had siblings, but they were in different states. So, he took me away from my state and my comfort zone where I knew everyone, and we relocated to his state where everyone that I was connected to was connected to him. So they all had, they protected him. He's their family. And then it's my word against his, even though some people knew what was going on, mum's the word. We see it, but we're going to turn the blind eye because we don't want to get involved. That's your problem. That's your situation. But I feel that a lot of the men feel that it's a control thing, and you don't have anyone else. Where are you going to go? I provide for you, especially if we're the weaker links. If he's the breadwinner, if he has the money, if he's providing everything that you need financially and tangibly, what else do you have to complain about? So you're going to do what I want you to do, and if you don't, I'm going to chastise you. And then there's jealousy.
Okay. There's another point you made, and some of our viewers are thinking that. I want to emphasize that because you are in the US. Now, you said when you were going through your situation, you called the domestic violence line over 20 times, and no one picked up, no one came to your help. Uh, and those of you listening to Liberia also have the same challenge in Africa, in Liberia also, where there's no one to come to your help at this time. So, how do we solve this problem? We have the domestic hotline in the US. You go in a situation, call this line more than 20 times, no one is picking up. What is going on here?
It's not that they don't pick up, they
Yeah.
answer, but they don't have the resources. It's like, they'll give you a list of things and places you can go. Well, if I've called all of these places, now what? So now I do have to admit, one time I did call the domestic violence hotline and I was on hold. It was a test since I've been an advocate. And I was on hold for over an hour and 30 minutes and no one ever, that's how busy they
That's a
were.
long time.
An hour and 30 minutes I waited to see how long, because I've had clients that I spoke with and they'd be like, well, Crystal, I called that number and I didn't get through. I called that number and they gave me another list. So it's the lack of, there again, it boils down to resources. It boils down to the help. And then okay, they'll tell me, call the police if you feel in danger. If you are in immediate danger, call 911. Okay, I'm going to call 911. The police are going to show up. If my abuser is there, I'm not free to talk. I can't say, yeah, he just beat me and I need you to take him to jail. If he has one defensive wound on him, do you guys know that we both go to jail? You
Yeah,
know that
I mean,
because I clawed him and he had marks from me. Well, you both are going to jail for domestic violence. Well, if you just take him and arrest him, at least for that 3 hours and detain him, that could be the only time I have to get away.
hmm.
Other thing they'll say, take out a restraining order. Take out a restraining order. A restraining order is a piece of paper. It's a piece of paper. What am I going to do? Wave it at him and say, don't you dare come and kill me. The police are going to come. Someone who is in their mind, who they're a chronic abuser, they don't care about that piece of paper. That piece of paper means nothing. So when the ladies say, okay, I'm ready to go, we need to have in place, I need to be secure that I am safe and I'm going to be protected. Someone is going to come in here and get myself and my children and get us away from this human being.
So I'm glad you're reviewing this. And for those of you who are listening on radio, Krista lives in the United States of America. She works as a woman advocate here in the US. Her experience that she's sharing is similar to what we have in Liberia. We also have Candace who's trying to join us through the studio to give her this perspective for Liberia. But I'm flabbergasted, if that for want of a better word, that you were on the line with testing the line with someone being abused, pick up the hotline, call, and you have an hour and 30 minutes you have on hold. So if that gentleman was aggressive, It means that within an hour, 30 minutes, he will have abused you. And the second part of it is that once you go into the move of self-defense, when the police come, instead of helping you through the situation, the both of you have to go to prison because you have a mark on him. Uh, Now that we have discussed the problem, before my good friend Sheriff take over, now we have discussed the problem. We're now almost to the 30 minutes mark. How do we help our families identify, understand that someone is going through domestic violence? How do we help families understand this situation?
By doing exactly what we're doing now. As the Bible say, my people are destroyed because of lack of knowledge. If you don't know, you don't know. So I can't fault you for not knowing. But more talks like this, more interviews, have other women come in that have lived it. Don't bring someone before me who has book knowledge. That's why I advocate. Avocation is I don't it's not my career. I don't get paid for that. I do this because I can identify and I have lived it. So we need more survivors to speak out. We need more support for survivors, and we need people to be willing to open their ears and stop turning a blind eye to it. It's all about the lack of knowledge. You can't fault somebody from what they don't know. I can recognize someone who's in an abusive situation. I can give them all of the routes. I can tell you how to get out, but I'm only one survivor. I'm only one individual. So what about the other people who have escaped and gotten out? I speak out boldly all over the world. I don't care anymore because it's too prevalent. There's just too many women and men losing their lives to domestic violence. And I vow that if my life was saved, if God saved my life, I would not be quiet about it. I'm going to help the next woman.
Dr. George, I know you want me coming, but I want you to do this for me real quick. I'm trying to get Candace in from Liberia, but we are not getting her. Her device is not connecting. I think it would have been better if she had just gone to the studio to join. But what we do though, I would like for you to kind of speak to the numbers in Liberia, because even that numbers that you were kind of alluding to, with the number being anywhere between 50% of or 47% of men taking advantage of women, abusing their girlfriends or their spouses in Liberia, I want to say the number is even skewed. And the reason I want to say that number is even skewed is because number one, the reporting system in the country is so bad, right? And my friends in Liberia are not gonna like that I say this, but the reporting system is bad. Who is reporting? How are they getting the information, the data? Look, right now I'm on the UN page. I can list countries that are reporting, and the UN capture enough numbers to say, look, in 2024, this number of women got killed in South Sudan, in Nigeria, in Ghana, different places. I don't have that number for Liberia. So we are just guessing as we go. But what we do know, though, that's why I think it's super important what Crystal was saying. The live experience is what's super important, because every day you and myself, we get information from back home. We know exactly what's happening on the ground. We know it is not just a Princess Zuo story. It is the Princess Cooper story. It is the Jessica Lloyd story. The Jessica, and all of these stories go, and there are many people in Liberia who don't even report. They don't come forward. And so talk about the numbers, Dr. George, and see where is this data coming from? How are we even getting the number? How can we even be sure that this number is accurate?
Okay, I'm getting my report from, I know we have the UN one, but it's the August 23rd, 2020, 25th, 2023 a report by the Afro Barometer. This is a group that tracks gender-based violence in Africa. So when you look at them, if you look at it, this survey and what Afro Barometer have on the first gender-based violence, an important problem in Liberia, you have about 48% of men who agree that it's an important problem in Liberia. Only 47% of women agree with that, and indifference is at that rate. So definitely you have 47% of those who saying that they are concerned that that's actually taking place in Liberia. Now, how common it is, Liberians are evenly divided on how often gender-based violence occurs in their communities. So 50% say violence against women and girls is somewhat common. 21% says it's very common, and 29% says that it is not very common. 35% not at all. There are about 35% of us who believe that it's not common in the country. Now, when you go down, more than 53% of women and 43 say that it is common occurrence. So some men don't believe that is that common. Now, if you go down to what they take, let's see perceive if we see gender-based violence and the perception of it, physical discipline or abuse. Majority of Liberians say that it is justified for a man to use physical force to discipline his wife.
Okay,
56
so
Liberians.
stop there. That's a big number. Stop there because I don't want Crystal to explore right now where she's at. So stop there for a second. Let's take a call, and I will come back to Crystal to address those numbers. Even though she's not in Liberia, but she can relate to exactly what's being said. Let's take the call, and then we'll come back for Crystal to kind of address the different numbers, and we'll go from there. Stephen, we can't hear you. I think you're muted. You're muted. We can't hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can
Go
hear
ahead.
you.
Oh, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so welcome to our guest. Thank you very much for coming. I've been following the show. So unfortunately, I'm sorry for those situations you have to go through with your abuser. Abuse is wrong. It should not be encouraged in any society, any form, shape, or size. My question to her is, because I a family where my father was a more dominant figure, and the guy would just get mad for any little thing, spoon, glass, anything, and there were a lot of, I was little, but my mother went through a lot of beating and other things, so I grew up in that home. And back in Liberia, for those of us that own here, our mother was from the village, our villages. So your father, even when your father mistreated her, her parents wanted her to get married. They don't want a daughter walking around with no. So I remember there were days they brought my mother right back, even with it forever. Because it was more like a traditional thing that people wanted their daughters to get married, even though they were going to abuse, and they had to stay there. We don't have no hotline, we didn't have no support center when I was growing up. I don't know about now. But in the United States, you guys, in this 21st century, you have hotline, you have a resource center, and best of all, you got a justice system that actually
Professor Pro, we're losing you.
by the America. So why is it that up to now you got why are women in the United States or women and men, but mostly women, why are they still with all the resources available with a good justice system? Why are they still not reporting these violence? And I'm still yelling in the 21st century, 2022, 2023, 2024. Women are still saying I was abused last year. But you had the time to report it, you had a system. So why is holding women in the United States back from reporting domestic violence as we speak, President?
Okay. Well, thank you. We'll let Crystal address that. And Crystal, I know his phone was kind of breaking up, so I don't know if you got the whole picture of the question.
I got it.
Okay,
So
go for it.
his question about why are we not reporting or why talking about all the resources we have. Yes, there are resources, but there's not enough. Our justice system for domestic violence is not as great as you think. I just had one of my younger mentees call me 3 weeks ago. And she went to the police like I referred her to. She went to the resource centers like I referred her to. And the help was not there. She had to jump through all types of hoops in order to just get a restraining order. She lived in one county and he lived in another. Because she lived in this county, that county could not serve him the restraining order in the county that he lived in. It was up to her to go and get someone who was not connected to them to take this man a restraining order. So it seems good in the US. They think that we have all of these resources and that our justice system is great. It's not. We're still in the dark ages when it comes down to domestic violence, just like you guys are. And it pains me because, see, just like you have that intuition that, oh, they're in America, they're in the US, they got the resources, they got the hotline, they have this. No. It's not as good as you think it is. It is a challenge for a victim. It is so challenging for us to even get someone to say, okay, We have a place for you to go. Or we're going to send the police. Sometimes, you can call the police to come to you for on a DV call, and they do not consider that an emergency. It can take them maybe 35, 45 minutes to get to you because something else came up. Or if I've called the police before and said, okay, I'm being abused. And if they've come to my house 3 or 4 times, then they're tired of coming to me because guess what? I didn't leave. Resources are not readily available for people of domestic violence. I don't care what they say they have for us. I'm a living, breathing witness. I had to leave my home by myself on my own and figure it out on my own. So that's why I live and I breathe domestic violence awareness. I walk hand in hand with these ladies.
And
So,
Terry, can I just ask
go ahead.
something? Yeah. So,
Go ahead.
Crystal, thank you for adding that. And I just wanted to ask you one question, right? After you left your trouble home and your city, when you got to the new city, when you
Denver.
called for help, was there any help from even the domestic violence hotline or any city help that was available to you after you left your home? Was there anything available for you as
There
far as
absolutely was. There was help actually before I left my home. There's a
Mhm.
place here in Colorado called Safe House Denver. And Safe House Denver, once I had to get here, I had to get
Okay,
here. So I got 3 bus tickets, Greyhound bus tickets, and got on the bus. My children and I came from Houston, Texas. I Once we got to Denver, I called the hotline back again. Safe House Denver sent a taxi to the Greyhound bus station. I didn't know where we were going because it's a safe house.
okay,
They sent the taxi, took us to a women's shelter. That was the safest I have felt. I was in that safe house for 5 days. Um, they had, we didn't have coats, we didn't have anything. So they got us all settled. They got us situated. I then, from that day, I didn't stop. I started asking, what are the other resources? What are the other, because I knew I couldn't go back. But let me tell you how weak I was. I did go to my counselor and I said, is there any way you can help me get back home to Texas? Because I'd rather be beat than stay here. I personally
wow,
said that out of my mouth because I left the comfort of my home. I left my job. I left my cars. I left everything that I knew. I had my kids. They were in a women's shelter. There was like maybe 80 of us in this shelter. We had our own room, but it wasn't ours. But yes, once I got here to Denver, it just so happened that that shelter had a space for myself and my children. Now look at this. There was my son at the time was 13, and because he was a 13-year-old male, we had to have our own room. So they had to go in that room and wake up a mother that had 4 kids of her own and put her into a room with another woman who had 4 kids of her own. And they had to
mm,
share a room because my kids and I had to be there. Now think
mm,
about the mother who has a 17-year-old son that's being abused. She's not going to leave her child behind.
mm,
Right? It's hard for her to get into a shelter because he's almost an adult.
mm,
So there's so many hoops, there's so many things that people on the outside do not know. I look like I have it all together, but at that time I didn't have it, but I had a will to survive, and I knew I wanted to make a difference. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here today, because of the will to survive. But
mm,
in your country, you guys don't have all of that we have, and I totally understand. That's why I asked God to be a worldwide speaker. I am someone who wants to come into your country and let them women know, hey, look at me. Look at me. I'm still living because I said I'm leaving. If that means uprooting from your country of Liberia or Niger, wherever you are, let's go. There are places that we can do. So that's why I'm here. So, yeah, the red tape, the things that you guys don't see in the background of how hard it is. That's why it's so easy for us to go back because it's comfortable in your comfort zone, even if it means I'm being abused, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Crystal, no, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on
thank you.
today. And I'm really glad that we connected. I'm super glad that we connected, seriously, because I think we're going to have more of this discussion as we move on. Dr. George, you were speaking to the numbers in Liberia. You're speaking, it is very astounding when you talk about 47% of men in Liberia saying it is okay to lay a hand on your woman. It is okay to lay your hand on your woman. I am laughing not because it is right. I'm laughing because I think it's comic of for men to be thinking that it is okay, for people to be thinking that it is okay to put your hair on your woman. Now,
But
yeah,
okay, but
let me finish my point, Dr. George. Here is something I remember hearing when I was in Liberia. And I'm gonna tell you this because my own sister, I heard my older sister say this particular thing, and she is still living with this man that man, I hated this guy, but she and this guy are still together. Here's the thing: I heard my older sister say one time, if your man does not lay hands on you, I mean he doesn't love you.
He doesn't love you.
And that is the stupidest thing. As young as I was, I just felt that was a stupid thing to say. That if he doesn't beat you, he doesn't lay hands on you, that means he doesn't love you. And because of that, though, I think in our society in Liberia, men continue to perpetuate this kind of behavior because maybe our sisters have actually given them the go ahead to do so. And so we should stay back and don't get involved. You are going to say something, Dr. George. Go ahead.
trying what I wanted to do was to correct when it comes to disciplining your spouse physically, 56% of Liberians believe that should take place.
Both men and women.
Both men and women. 56% of Liberians believe, according to Afrobarometer, August 25th, 2023 report. So 56% say it is never justified for men to physical, but 44, yeah, you're right, 44%. And always, yeah, you have that number. So we have this situation that we really need to work on, because when it comes to illiterate Liberians, because they say educated in the report, and I don't like to there's nobody who is uneducated to me. When it comes to the issue of those who are illiterate, the number is high. 61% of those in secondary or post-secondary education says that it is good to be on a woman. So if you look at our literacy rate in Liberia that is low, then you have an understanding of the mentality of the society. I agree with Crystal on his point. We all have a lot of work to do. Those of us who run this thing called or talk show or podcast, and those who run in Liberia different radio, we need to speak to this issue almost all the time, because the stat is against us bringing this thing to an end. That was the end of your question, Mr. Sherry, on the flyer. The stat is against it. If you have a country where 61% of the illiterate people, and we have only about 20% literacy rate in Liberia, that is 80% of the population. 80% of the population that sees nothing wrong with domestic violence or with you beating on your spouse. And this is the situation we have. So perhaps the stories that we've been hearing, these people have grown up in a situation where they felt it was natural. So at the end of the day, someone's life is being taken because we have not run this education that we need to do. But what is key that Crystal is pointing up and flashing here in the US, and I'm very sure it's in Liberia, is safe houses. Where can these women go to? Where can they live? They go to. I know many of my sisters listening to me on Freedom FM in Monrovia. You may be in that same situation. That's why you're keeping yourself there, because this person is a breadwinner. This person not only supporting you, but he's supporting your family. You know how we do things in Africa. And a girl hits the lottery, wins the lottery. If she has a rich person that is her boyfriend or her husband, the whole family looks up to him. He's not only the provider of the girl in the life of the girl, but he provides to the extended relative. And extended relative now put a lot of pressure. You cannot leave because you don't have the opportunity to get a job. You don't have the opportunity to how to call it, to support your family, because this person is the one doing it, but this person is a violent person.
So Crystal, let me come back to you here real quick. Let me come back to you because I mean your voice to this discussion is super important. Not only do you bring the professional experience to it, but you bring the life experience to it, and that actually makes you a powerful force in this particular work, in this line of work. When you hear the numbers, I'm trying to pick you up from Denver and drop you right in Monrovia, Liberia. I'm dropping you right in Monrovia, Liberia. When you hear the number in that particular small culture, where 40%, let's just say 40 something percent of the men saying that it is okay to lay your hands on your woman. Where do you even begin your work? I don't want you, I don't want you to be like Liberian. You are not Liberian, but I want you to speak to your work. Where do you even start to advocate? How do you even get to the people that will give you the voice to speak when 40% of the men are saying this is okay? You will get pushed back from every corner. How do you start this work?
It's a very, very hard, that's those statistics is very hard, but all it takes is one. And when you start, the people in government, you have to start up, it, like I said, I'm one voice, but with my one voice, I've brought many along with me. Um, we need to get our government officials. And granted, some of them are probably a part of that 40% because of the culture and how they were raised. And, it just continues to keep going, going, going. But at some point, we've got to break this generational curse. If we have more people that are willing to stand together and bind together, it's 40% of the men. Where are the other men who do not agree with that? Where are the other ones that treat their women like their better half and they're equal? Are they willing to stand up, or is there fear? It still goes back to that fear, because you're in the break room with your guys and you hear this guy talking about how he had to chastise his wife last night and it's okay, but you got this Liberian guy over here who totally disagrees. Is he going to speak up? Is he willing to know? Because I know in a lot of small little countries and small towns, everybody pretty much knows everybody. Even like here in my city, pretty much everyone knows everyone. So who's willing to step in? And it starts not just with the locals. We need people that are higher up, the police enforcement. We need these people to stand with us, and these advocates like myself that come from different countries or that are in your country that are not afraid of the men to tell them that they're wrong and to challenge them. They need to start prosecuting. They need to start removing them. And then a lot of these women need to find their strength and know that they don't need that man in order to be a wife or in order to be a mother. Then there's the education. We feel like, I'm not smart enough because they've told me that. Yes, you are.
But Crystal, let me take you back though. I mean, you just made a strong point there. We got about 12 minutes here to end the broadcast. You just made a powerful point that women need to be strong enough, stand up for themselves and say no to their abusers and just try to make it. And like you did, you're a survivor. You made it. I'm super proud of you. I didn't know this story beforehand. I'm super proud of you. Look, I mean, you are my hero. I'm telling you, in this particular fight, this is a beautiful thing to see. Someone who stands up and actually do things for themselves. But you also said at some point in time, even after you left your abuser and you were in the safe home, you told yourself, I'd rather go back to that house because it was comfortable for me than for me to stay here in this safe, quote unquote, safe home. I want to go back there. Even though he's going to beat me, he's going to kill me. I'd rather get beaten than to stay here. And many women actually struggle with that. It is not a new construct. It is not a new concept. A lot of women struggle with that. Where does the will come from, especially when you take into consideration my country, where people actually, most of the women, they are dependent on their men. Most of the women, and I say all women, most of them.
Except I was dependent. Like I said, he was the breadwinner, but it was my will to live and not live just for myself. I have children. If I went back, I was either going to kill him or he was going to kill me. And then my children would have who? They wouldn't have anyone. So it was my will to live, my will to survive for my children, and my will to make a difference. I now know my calling. My career as a nurse or as a writer, that's not my calling. My calling is to help other women find that inner strength. You just have to say enough is enough. But it's not until that woman has found her enough. It was a kick in my face, a kick to the face that almost broke my jaw. It was being addicted to cocaine where it was like, okay, if, like I said, either he's going to kill me or I'm going to kill him. So I have to go. That's that inner will and that strength to want to survive.
Oh, Dr. George, go ahead. Come in. Dr. George, you are muted.
Sorry, we have a few minutes left. And
Mhm.
Crystal, thank you so much. That's I want to send this to our women, our sisters who are listening on Freedom FM 87.9 Monrovia, Liberia. There's no situation that is hopeless. It's difficult, but you can do it. I know it's challenging at times because you see, Mr. Sheriff, the challenge of what Crystal said in the chat, the beginning of uh, of of having a mindset that a male should be the domineering person. He should be the breadwinner. Starts when you look at the statistics from our high schools, from junior high school, where young girls have to have sex in order for them to pass to get grades, with these teachers abusing them. In fact, one of my friends in the Senate, I was trying to tell them that we need to pass a law against this because there's so many young girls in high school, in middle school, who have to have relationship with their teachers because they want. So that's the beginning of dependency. If you are not strong enough, if parents are not strong enough to support their kids, their children through middle school and high school, these young ladies will start to believe that they have to, in order for them to succeed and excel, there should be a man in their life. There should be a man who will be able to provide. There should be someone, and that once that dependency get into the mind frame, we have all this violent abuse that we see in our society today. So I'm speaking to our sister back home. Let the story of Princess be something that we all read and think about. I know she wanted to get out of the relationship. She actually was trying her own life and she was doing well. But there was this man who just could not accept no in his life. And for my brothers out there that is listening, I mean, nobody born a daughter to be with you forever. If she decide to leave, allow her to leave. All this beating on women does not make you a man. It only show how weak you are as a person intellectually and how weak you are as a person mentally. Um, Hopefully we'll be able to develop the coping skills to work around this. But Crystal, let me come back. Your story is so interesting that I think we should bring you on one of our other shows we have. But
Absolutely.
now, I mean, you wanted to go back home, and Sherry, thank you for asking that question, which was a very good question. But tell us about your life after in the next couple of minutes. Your life after how were you able to navigate this challenge, the mental challenge you were going through, that you were not good enough, that you have to go back to this breadwinner? How did you navigate that situation?
Well, I always say there's life after domestic violence. So what does that mean? It means I want to live. So I actually sought therapy. I was I was in therapy for like 3 years. I leaned on my church family that I have here. I told myself there's no need to go back. There's nothing to look back for. Everything that I left behind was material. So what am I looking back for? I need to look ahead. I need to look forward. But um, my greatest push was wanting to be able to be an example. I wanted to be an example for my daughter, who's now an adult. I wanted to be an example for my son of, the strength that I had for them. So it's all about my inner strength, but it took counseling. It took actually meds. I had to take a pill to get up in the morning, a pill to work, and a pill to sleep because PTSD is very real. So it didn't happen overnight, but it did happen very quickly to me because I was stronger than I realized I was. Once I got out, I started to see, oh, I'm free. Oh my goodness. I'm free to go to work when I want to and not worry about my abuser sitting in the parking lot. Oh my goodness. I used every resource they had. I was on the system. I received food stamps. I received whatever there was to help women. I tapped into it. I didn't do it long term, but look at me now. I'm happy. I'm still single. 16 years later, I'm still alive. I'm here to see my grandchildren. So it was, like I said, that inner strength and seeking resources for myself, those that they didn't have at the resource center. But now, um, being a voice for others, I can say, okay, this is how we can go do it. Let me walk with you over here. So it was just tapping into just finding things that I didn't even know existed for other women out there because I didn't have to do that at that point. But now I'm on my own. I can either sink or swim. What are you going to do? I'm not going back to that lifestyle that I left, and it was hard because, like I said, I was addicted to drugs when I escaped because that's what he introduced me to my 29th birthday. So there's so much that there's missing pieces that we can put together. We can have another talk. But first and foremost, we cannot just do this one podcast and like, okay, Crystal spoke, we spoke, and let's hope it gets better. If it was up to me, I would speak every single day all over the world. I have a podcast myself, where I'm going to let people know this is not just one thing. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but domestic violence is 360, 365, 7 days a week.
All right, Crystal, thank you so much. And for those who are joining us in Liberia, you have access to the internet, even though they're taking your data away from you. That's a different story for another day. But you have access to the internet. I have posted Crystal's information. Her page is called beyondblessed.org. It's on our page. It's linked down there. Check it out, beyondblessed.org. If you are in the US, definitely I would recommend you check that page out. A lot of wonderful resources. I went through it, I looked through it, and definitely I would recommend to anyone who wants to get connected with Crystal, go to beyondblessed.org. Dr. George, we have about 4 minutes left. I would like for our guests to take the last word. So, what's your closing remark to our brothers and sisters in Liberia? And I will do mine, and then Crystal is going to close our show for today.
Oh, I wanted to number that they can call in Liberia. Someone wanted to call. That's what I was gonna do. But
Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, those of you in Liberia who are listening to this program, we want to apologize that kindness. She actually tried to be on the show, but we just couldn't get her on because of communication network. Hopefully, we're going to get her another time with Crystal to have this conversation so we can have about this perspective from Liberia. But you don't have to be in that relationship. And my dear brothers, laying your hand on a woman doesn't make you a man. What make you a man is to be very respectful to that lady as you respect your mother and your sister. Be respectful in the community, work hard, earn some income, get a career, and do something great. But by beating your girlfriend all the time, beating your wife all the time, it doesn't show that you are a powerful person. So have a wonderful evening. Hope we be able to end this thing in Liberia. Hope we be able to get a support system together. Because from what we're hearing from Crystal, it is not just one size fit all. There is a lot of support system that we have to put in place. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.
And for my little closing remark here, I think Dr. George, you said it. Our work here is not to disparage our country. When we come, if you look at the name of our platform, it's called Liberia Shall Rise. We believe in Liberia. We believe in the potential of the country, and we want to see the country to go in the upright position. And in order for our country to move in the right direction, for us to be moving in the right trajectory, we should not just protest when there's rice shortage in Liberia. We should not just protest when there is gas shortage in the country. We should not just protest when LEC is not stable. We should also be angry that our sisters are getting beat upon. We should be angry that our young nieces, our daughters are being taken advantage of. Oh man, because you gave a girl some money to go to school, or because you and her live in a relationship, it does not mean you are entitled to her. It does not mean you own her. If she does not want to have sex, she does not have to have sex with you that night. And if she does not want the relationship, she does not have to be in a relationship. If you say yes, you take no. Do not go out punishing our sisters just because you feel you are the man and you have power. It starts with laying your hand on them by beating on them. The next thing, the next step, you get so emboldened that you resort into what happened to our sister princess. Broad daylight, you kill someone broad daylight. That says something to your psyche. It says to how crazy. You should not do any of that, by the way. But to go broad daylight and kill someone broad daylight, that says exactly where your mindset is. So be careful. Love one another. Treat each other with respect. That's the only way a relationship works out. And at this point in time, I'll just turn it over to Crystal. Crystal, you have the last word, and then we're going to be ending our broadcast for today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful that I was able to use my voice on your platform today. I just want my Liberian sisters to know that abuse is not love. Abuse is not protection. There's a difference. You're worth more than someone putting their hands on you. And I know it's a scary situation. I know it's hard to try and figure out how you're going to survive without them. But I'm here to tell you that you can and you will survive and thrive. Um, I look forward to you guys reaching out to me. Feel free to email me, and I will most definitely respond to you. I will also look for resources in your country and try to put them on my website as well. I'm sending you all love from the United States, and this will not be the last time that you all hear from me. Thank you again for having me today.
On that note, friends, we say thank you for joining us, and we got this is how we're going to end our broadcast. So, with my panelist, Crystal Ryan, we say thank you, and again, please go to Crystal's website, beyondblessed.org. Check out our page, the comment section. You will see her page listed. Dr. George, it's always fun to do this show with you. Until next Sunday, we'll be here for the very first segment of the year. We say thank you, and to our friends in Liberia, Freedom FM 87.9. Thank you so much for broadcasting this program live. We thank you and we look forward to speaking to you next week. Stay safe.